So in this video, I'm going to review a few marathons that I've done and give you the best marathon race that I've participated in. So I've done Indianapolis Monumental, Chicago Marathon in October. Monumental is in November. I've done the Kentucky Derby Marathon, which is the week before the actual Kentucky Derby in Louisville, Kentucky. I've done the Air Force Marathon. I've done a few trail marathons, one of which doesn't exist anymore. I've done the Kalamazoo Marathon in Michigan and the Nashville Rock and Roll Marathon. So with those races, Derby was my first, and I spent a lot of time in Louisville, so that will always be a great race. For the halfway point of the half marathon, you run around the infield track at Churchill Downs, which is where the Kentucky Derby is run. So that is a really cool feature of the race. For the half marathon, the course is pretty well populated, lots of spectators, pretty good cheering. You run through parks in Louisville. Really, the half, definitely a great race. Now the backside of the full marathon, so from miles really 7 to 18, you're kind of a little further out of downtown of the city. So you run through some really great parks. Right around mile 13, you run through Iroquois Park, which there's a few rolling hills, which you probably don't expect in the marathon. That might kick you a little bit, but really great, beautiful park. And then you come back in through some of the eclectic neighborhoods of Louisville. Gives you a really great tour of the city that you don't experience on the half marathon course. Little barren, but we don't run marathons for the cheering. So I really love Louisville's course. Great course, couldn't say enough about it. The Indianapolis Monumental Marathon, if you're looking for a really flat course, you're ready to qualify for Boston, you need that cold weather to really kick your times, Indianapolis is a great place to come and set your pace. Also, the tag slogan for the race, to Indianapolis, a great place to set your pace. So Indy, flat course, fairly scenic, decently well spectated through the first portion of the course and the last portion. There's really the first part of the course, you run through Circle Center, which is really great. The back part really gets kind of barren. You do run through the Indianapolis Museum of Modern Art, the IMA, and a few other parks and gardens. Other than it's a local race for me, it's in November to kind of wrap up the year. Not a highly recommended course to come and travel for. Chicago is one of the 8 great marathons in the world, and you really can't miss Chicago. There's 50,000 people now probably that do Chicago, and I think it's a lottery system now. I was one of the lucky ones that if you're just quick enough to sign up, you were in. Now it's on the lottery system, so there's a little more luck and chance involved, if you will, to get into Chicago. But with 50,000 runners and like 1.2 million spectators, it's really a race you can't miss if you get in. So Chicago, definitely worth running. Kalamazoo Quiet Michigan Marathon in May, great race, pretty well spectated, good way to see part of central Michigan. You run through western Michigan's campus, which is really nice. Not a ton of spectators, but a pretty quiet, easy course. Recommend it, especially if you're just trying to check off one of the races in Michigan. Here in October, I'm doing the Free Press Marathon in Detroit, which will be half in Canada. So I'll go cross the bridge into Windsor for that, and I'll let you know how that one goes. But for right now, that's my only Michigan marathon, and it was pretty good. Nashville rock and roll, very rock and roll friendly marathon, which you would expect. There's a lot of bands, a lot of music along the course. This year was really hot in Nashville. Um, it's at the end of May. Um, pretty. I mean, it was hot this year. They were shutting down the course early. I kind of barely made it through a bunch of those checkpoints. I had a great race. I had a PR in there um, with a 4:30 marathon, 4:35. So I was ecstatic with my performance. Just it was 90 degrees. So recommended course. Um, Great way to see Nashville. You do go through a lot of neighborhoods, so I would recommend the Nashville Marathon. The Wright-Patt Marathon, the Air Force Marathon at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. This is one that, unless you just really want to see a military base, get on and see the plane museum and need a reason to go, I would not do this race. So for me, this race, you're running across landing strips and runways, tarmacs for seems like forever. Race, you're on the base for a good portion of it, so there's not a lot of people that are allowed to come and spectate, which makes the course a little barren, a little lonely. Granted, we're not always in it for the cheering, but it's definitely nice to have some of that excitement and outside noise to kind of get you through some of those miles. So view's not that great. You do finish down a corral full of planes, which is really cool, but I mean, I can say I did it, went through it, but if you're looking for a race in Ohio, this is not it. I don't have a recommended one yet. I've heard Flying Pig's great. I've heard rave reviews. Personally, I just haven't done it. So for Ohio, that's not the race to do. So those are my current road races. So obviously you got to do Chicago. The Derby's great to go and see that and be on Churchill Downs for that race. Nashville, awesome. Kalamazoo, quiet, easy marathon, kind of kick off summer. And then, Wright-Patt's kind of down there at the bottom of the list. So check back and I'll give updates on races as I do them. Thanks.